Hello everyone, welcome back to Fraud on the Telly. In today's video we are taking a look at the top 5 fight scenes in The Legend of Vox Machina. Titmouse, the animation studio behind Legend of Vox Machina, is famous for being one of the best in the business at incredibly detailed animated fight scenes. Look no farther than one of their major works, Avatar: The Last Airbender, to see that these guys know what they are doing. Combine Titmouse's attention to detail with an adult fantasy like Legend of Vox Machina, and you get a perfect match for some bloody fight scenes. I said this as well in my full review of Legend of Vox Machina, but I'll say it again. This show has some of the best animated fight scenes in animation in general, period. Don't believe me? Well, in this video, we're running through the top 5 fight scenes in Legend of Vox Machina. As always, if you enjoyed the video and learned something new, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're almost at 1K subs, so help your boy out. Okay, let's go. Number 5, Vox Machina versus the WRAITHS. Our first entry comes from episode 4, and it's arguably the scariest as well. Vox Machina, having had their surprise encounter with the Briarwoods, are put under house arrest by Sovereign Uriel. While stuck at home under guard, Lady Briarwood summons and sends a group of wraith-like creatures to kill Vox Machina in their home. These wraiths are similar to several different creatures in D&D who are incorporeal, meaning they can pass through objects as well as objects pass through them. This obviously makes for an exceedingly hard foe, as how can you hurt something that you can't hit? Vox Machina, as well as the guards within their castle, learn this the hard way, as horrifyingly we see the wraiths stick their entire arms through multiple guards, as well as this poor soul here, who gets pierced and then dragged across the ceiling, their life essence drained from them. This pain and suffering isn't just limited to a bunch of jobber guards either, as Scanlan gets a taste of these nasty creatures, as well as we get this scene of Keyleth being possessed that could have come straight out of Paranormal Activity. If this scene didn't make you uncomfortable, then you have thicker skin than I do. Ultimately, the group overcame these ghastly ghosts as Keyleth gets some super cool character development, as well as a bit of foreshadowing, as she rises to the occasion casting the Sunbeam spell, saving her allies. Number 4, Vox Machina vs. Professor Anders. Our fourth entry has us skipping forward to episode 8, Silver Tongue. Vox Machina having located Cassandra, Percy's sister, she is being held in Professor Anders' home. Percy follows Anders upstairs to where he is holding Cassandra at knife point. In a move that definitely would have shocked viewers who had no Campaign 1 knowledge, Anders slits Cassandra's throat, and our fight scene ensues. Anders uses his magic and his silver tongue to reanimate several suits of armor. Not too much of an issue for our heroes who have regrouped with Percy, as the fight scene seems to be going Vox Machina's way. Anders, taking advantage of Grok's weak mind, puts him under a Dominate Person spell, and forces him to fight his friends. Those familiar to Campaign 1 know this isn't the first time Grog will be forced to attack his allies, and any D&D vet knows you don't piss off the Goliath Barbarian. We got the lesson firsthand as Grog beats the piss out of his former allies. To add insult to injury, Anders managed to put every single member of Vox Machina under his control except for Percy, who in a tight spot pulls out his years of Fortnite trick shot practice, I guess, and with a 300 IQ shot, blows Anders' jaw off. Percy has so many good moments and lines throughout this show, but this scene where he finally removes Anders from the list has got to be one of my favorites, and that alone gets this fight scene number 4 on my list. Number 3, Vox Machina vs. the Blue Dragon. Third spot is a bit of a double whammy as we're counting both VM's encounters with the dragons from episode 1 and 2. This encounter with the dragons really gives the audience a taste as to the epicness they're in store for with this show. After having tracked the mysterious beast down, Vox Machina is surprised to learn the creature they've been chasing was a blue dragon all along. And wow, were they underprepared! This first encounter with the dragon really sets the pace for the show, as it shows these characters are not all powerful in this world. Nowhere close, in fact. This scene of the dragon taking a huge chunk out of the forest with one bite, and then in the next moment destroying the rest of it with one of its passive, the lightning breath, is just epic. And if that's not an appropriate term to describe this, then I don't know what is. Dragons are super iconic in D&D and media in general. I mean, it's the name for God's sake. And Legend of Vox Machina does this justice in my opinion, as an adult dragon in D&D is one of the most deadly encounters a party can face, and that danger is instantly conveyed in episode 1. After narrowly escaping their first encounter with the dragon, Vox Machina in episode 2 find themselves with round 2 of the same dragon, but I guess this time they thought they'd make it harder for themselves and fight it in its own lair. I love the small details in this fight, like the fact that the floor is covered with gold, which would conduct electricity from Brim-sized lightning breath, even getting hot enough to melt this gold. Like, how's that for detail? These dudes really looked up the melting temperature for gold. Vox Machina are pushed to their limits and struggle to harm the dragon as it remains high off the ground. Realizing they need to ground it, they use their combined strength and cunning to trick the dragon into landing. And oh my god, the tune that comes in here gets me every time. Let's just take a listen real quick.
Impossible.
Gotcha.
The guitar that comes in on Scanlan's Gotcha is just anime as f. After tricking it to land, Vox Machina unleash a combined attack, holding it down so Vax can slice its neck while Grog comes in for the Mortal Kombat finish him moment. Now, it's no secret, I'm a critter. So the amount of fanboying I did when I watched this scene, yeah, it was something. And that's why it's number 3 on our list. Number 2. Vox Machina versus the Briarwoods. Now, this may be a bit contentious, as I'm sure many would have expected this to be number 1 on the list. But at number 2, we have Vox Machina versus the Briarwoods, the culmination of the Briarwood arc, and basically the climax to Season 1 of The Legend of Vox Machina. The fight with the Briarwoods really shows why Titmouse are some of the best in the game, specifically their attention to detail and the choreography of the fight scenes, and the amazing way they show motion. Vox Machina, having tracked the Briarwoods deep under Whitestone, engaged them in a battle atop the Ziggurat to prevent them from finishing summoning Vecna, the Whispered One. Titmouse has an amazing way of interlacing dialogue throughout the fight scenes without slowing the pace down at all, one of the many pitfalls of anime, as we all know, as well as the details each character has in the way they fight. Keyleth here, in the span of like 15 seconds, casts 4 different spells, each very distinguishable from the other and with a very obvious forethought in how they would sequence it. The way Pike fights with Silas is almost like Yoda, the way she flips and jumps around with each strike. I love the constant motion in the background. As we move across the battlefield, multiple individuals' battles are the focal point of each scene, but oftentimes you can see the others taking place in the background, and maybe I'm just a nerd for cinematics and animation, but that's really freaking cool. The culmination of the fight scene is just downright gorgeous, as we finally get the payoff in episode 11 for that foreshadowing we talked about earlier in episode 4, as Keyleth channels the power of the Sun Tree, casting an Omega Sunbeam. In a super Dragon Ball Z type moment, Grog grabs Silas, holding him in place, tanking Keyleth's Sunbeam in order to ensure that the vampire is incinerated. Just look at this shit, man. This is a thing of fucking beauty. And the entire 12-minute fight scene is just class in all its small details to its epic big finish. Titmouse held nothing back for this one, but it did not make number 1. Number 1, PERCY Orthax versus Vox Machina. This fight scene goes in number 1 purely on the amazing art throughout it and the emotions that it conveys. PERCY has finally been overcome by his revenge, fueled by the demon Orthax, the demon who gave PERCY the inspiration to invent his firearms. This is the culmination of PERCY's personal story arc, as throughout the show he has struggled with his thirst for vengeance, as it seems there's nothing he wouldn't give up to see all those who wronged him dead. PERCY has been possessed by the demon Orthax and shown horrible visions of his past as he unknowingly fights his fellow party members. It's revealed that PERCY, through the creation of his pistol, struck a bargain with the demon, and that every person he's killed has been feeding souls to it. If you watched my Legend of Vox Machina review, you know I'm gonna be repeating myself here, but to me these scenes are just straight up stunning. Easily my favorite animations from the entire season. The scene may not be much of a fight scene, as Vox Machina are afraid to hurt their friend, so they mostly just run away here and let PERCY battle the demon within himself, but the sheer amazingness of the art, combined with the dark themes of the story being told here, make the PERCY versus Vox Machina fight easily number 1 for me. In my opinion, PERCY has one of the best story arcs of all of Vox Machina, so it was going to be hard for anything else to take number 1 and 2 here. Honestly, it's this whole scene between PERCY and Orthax where they recount the making of the list that really does it for me. Oh yeah, and when he shoots himself in the hand after having blown off that kid's hand in like episode 3, yeah, that's a good callback there, man. I can't believe I missed that in my Easter egg video. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of my list, and what is your top 5 fight scenes in The Legend of Vox Machina. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Click on one of the videos on screen now. And as always, guys, I will see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Peace, love. I'll do.